For decades, the standard medical consensus on coronary disease has been straightforward. It is a one-way street of biological decay. You can manage the symptoms, you can prescribe medication to slow the progression, but the plaque accumulating inside the arteries is largely there to stay. 10 years ago, Dr. Peter Megdal faced exactly that prognosis. His doctors diagnosed him with severe coronary disease. At roughly the same time, his right foot collapsed, requiring a total surgical reconstruction with metal hardware just so he could walk across a room. Yet, at 65 years old, Peter is not managing a slow decline. He is strapped into a carbon fiber bicycle, navigating the steeply banked wooden curves of a velodrome, attempting to set an elite hour-long distance record. This is the Aguascalientes Velodrome in Mexico. It sits 6,000 feet above sea level. The air temperature inside the track has swelled to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and the high-altitude air provides roughly 20% less oxygen than at sea level. Under these punishing conditions, Peter's rebuilt heart is currently holding a steady rhythm of 165 beats per minute, just 10 beats shy of his absolute physical maximum. Peter spent a decade treating his heart as a laboratory, applying physiological laws of stress and adaptation to build a cardiovascular engine capable of elite output. The first 15 minutes of a track record attempt often lie to the rider. The tires hum smoothly against the Siberian pine boards, power output feels manageable, and the breathing is calm, right before the reality of the thin air sets in. Getting to the starting line required a different approach to fueling the human body. Guided by extensive peer-reviewed literature, Peter adopted a strict whole-food, plant-based diet. You can think of this dietary protocol as a method of fuel line clearance. By removing highly processed foods and animal products, the body actively dials down the systemic inflammation that drives arterial disease. This diagram illustrates endothelial repair. Notice how the blood vessel physically expands in diameter. The moving particles represent nitric oxide, a chemical signal that tells the inner walls of the arteries to relax and widen, allowing blood to flow more freely. Years of this nutritional protocol restored elasticity to Peter's arteries, creating conduits capable of handling extreme athletic stress. By the 20-minute mark, the initial comfort evaporates. The thin air stings the throat, the body traps heat, oxygen supply plummets, and power output steadily drops. This raises an obvious question. Why would a patient with a documented history of severe coronary disease intentionally subject their cardiovascular system to this level of intense, sustained suffering? The answer lies in a biological process called mechanotransduction. If you stress a muscle tissue, much like a sprawling, congested city grid, the system responds by building new roads to handle the increased traffic. This animation shows how this works at the cellular level. As muscle tissue is starved of oxygen, new capillary lines, the biological roads, branch out to deliver resources. This is angiogenesis, combined with the creation of new cellular power plants, known as mitochondrial biogenesis. Peter applied this exact same principle to his reconstructed foot. Through thousands of repetitive, targeted pedal strokes, he trained misaligned bones and frayed tendons to function as a cohesive unit again. The loss of wattage he's experiencing on the track isn't a systemic failure of his body. It is a predictable physiological response to high altitude and reduced convective cooling. His core temperature is simply rising faster than the heat can dissipate. The hour record serves as a functional test of a decade of preparation. It validates the long-term results of subjecting cardiovascular tissue to consistent, measured pressure. Entering the final 20 minutes, the body's sensory alarms flood the cortex. Peter experiences presyncope, a graying of his peripheral vision, while his brain screams a single overwhelming demand: stop. Sports scientists call this the central governor theory. It suggests that fatigue originates in the brain as a protective mechanism, stepping in long before the body's actual physical limits are reached. Think of it like the dashboard of a car. Extreme pain and fatigue are just blinking warning lights. They are not an immediate indicator that the engine has completely failed. To push through, Peter relies on cognitive reframing. By treating these extreme physical sensations as data rather than danger, he tricks his cortex into releasing its tightly guarded final reserves of energy. True endurance. Whether you are trying to survive 60 minutes on a wooden track or fighting back against a chronic illness, requires actively reprogramming how the mind interprets threat. When the bell finally rings, Peter has covered 47.22 kilometers. He collapses over his handlebars, entering what physiologists call the oxygen debt repayment phase, where the body frantically borrows back the resources it spent from anaerobic metabolism. This split-screen chart tracks the physiological metrics of his 10-year recovery. His VO2 max climbs steadily from 32 up to 54. His resting heart rate drops inversely, falling from 72 down to a hyper-efficient 48. These metrics demonstrate that cardiovascular circulation and physical mobility heal together, locking in physical capacity past conventional expectations. This is the biological ledger at work, a precise, heavy dose of targeted physical stress, followed by carefully calculated recovery, equals structural growth. Viewing aging and heart disease as a measurable dataset allows for systematic intervention. The results on the track demonstrate that the human engine can be rebuilt.